right, this is the book of Acts 14, verse 22. I'm going to read both versions. Confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must, through much tribulation, enter the kingdom of the Most High. NLT, where they strengthen the believers, they encourage them to continue in the faith, reminding them that we must suffer many hardships to enter the kingdom of the Most High. Right, first and foremost, I'm going to give out honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Kakadash. Double honor to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and teach well. Shalom to those like men that scattered abroad, pushing this truth without sincerity. Right, and also shalom to you very, very few sincere sisters that's taking heed and getting in order these last days. I'm the brother One coming to the quick live lesson. Lord is exhorting, uplifting, you know, and it's edifying. Right, so I was just watching, you know, two videos in particular. I was watching the brother Kalak out of GMS Atlanta, and also I was watching the live of GMS Mississippi, right, with the Elder Kazak. You know, and there was both of the videos pretty much made me reflect on the times that we're coming into, you know, which we know is Jacob's trouble, right? And you know, us hopefully elect, we're about to be on trial. You know, we're about to actually apply everything we have been learning inside this grace period. You know, so inside these times, just know that Yahweh Shema can make sure we okay, we straight. You know, so I'm gonna reread this in Acts 14 and 22 again, because it says confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, that we must through much tribulation enter to the kingdom of the Most High. Right, because this is not going to be no cakewalk. We got to go through a lot of sufferings. You know, we got to be like the spirit, of Job, right? Lot. You know, we got to just keep enduring. You know, we got to keep pushing, right? Because we know the latter end. We know what's in return from flipping the talents, being holding our integrity. You know, keeping our balance in this truth, man. We know what's at the finish line, right? And I had Googled this tribulation, right? Because one of the words really just stood out for me, right? Which was trial. You know, and it reads a cause of great trouble or suffering, right? Tribulations, right? And we know we come to the time of what? Jacob's trouble. You know, so we know we come to the time of Jacob's trouble. We're finna be on trial, man. It's finna be a time of adversity, tragedy, hardships, right? But Apostle Paul's already speaking on that. He said, hey, through much of that shall we enter to the kingdom of the Most High, right? Because in the book of Jeremiah 30 verse 7, let's grab that right quick. I'll just leave from here. Didn't even have that inside the list, but hey, man, that's how the spirit goes, you know. It's hard to really look at it through another phone, right? Straight to the point. Jeremiah 30 verse 7, it says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. See? So we're going to be on trial, but at the same time, hey, Lord will make sure we be able to get through it, right? Mix of it. You know, we're going to be inside them concentration camps. You know, we're going to be on the run. You know, like it says, a lot of brothers will be inside them prisons, man. You definitely got to keep the you definitely have to keep the hold fast to your integrity. You know, the time that we're coming into, man. Right? So exhorting them to continue in the faith. Right? Continue to the promise that the Lord Yahweh Shema is finna give us, man. Right? So from there, matter of fact, let me hit that in the book of Revelation 30. Revelation 3 and 10. Well, I'm gonna go to 2 and 10 first. You know, because that's one of the main things, right? As you've seen in the media, Trump is sending, you know, troops to 19 most states. You know, troops, man. We're seeing gradualism to martial law. right? We're seeing, matter of fact, let me grab that inside Isaiah 19:2, right? We're seeing the rise of it, man, right? And if you got Egyptian fighting rising up against Egyptian, right? That's a martial law, man, right? Scripture says a kingdom divided against itself cannot stand, right? That's it. That's Isaiah 19:2. Matter of fact, I gotta Google it because I got it in the GNT version. Isaiah 19:2. I just looked at that earlier, right? And put that on the screen. Right? It says, the Lord says, I will stir up civil war in Egypt and turn brother against brother and neighbor against neighbor. Rival cities will fight each other and rival kings will struggle for power, right? So we're seeing hard times going to come, with troops coming to being on the ground in all these states, right? Really, it's just, they say 19, but it's really going to be all states, man. You know, it's going to be all states real soon. You know, and when this civil war pop off, right, it's going to be a scarcity of food. You know, so it's going to be a good time of food famine, right? But keep in mind, the Lord said we're going to eat, right? That's a part of the tribulation. That's a part of the trial. That's a part of you keeping your trust in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right? Going back to the book of Isaiah 65 and 13. You know, it said, my servants will eat, my servants will drink. Now, we don't know when exactly, the day, the time, nor the hour that we're going to eat, but the Lord promised us that. No, that's a part of keeping that faith. Matter of fact, let's go to the because I forgot what I was going to go to just now. Let's go to the book of Hebrews 11 verse 1. Right? It says, I'm going to read both versions. It says, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, right? And we know what the Hebrew word for faith is amawan, right? And that's what you must have inside these times to come, right? Because that faith comes to what? Hope, confidence, right? We put all our eggs in one basket. You know, because why are we doing what he told us to do now? Go out there and teach, right? Rehearse the righteous laws to the best of your abilities, right? The NLT, it says faith is the confidence that what we hope for will actually happen. You know, the Lord tells us in the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 2 and like verse 40 on down, if I'm mistaken, you know, about those that stood so stiffly for the name. You know, it says it give us assurance about things we cannot see. See, that's faith. That's why we're pursuing. That's why we hope in it. You know, so we know these times are coming down the pipeline, right? And we know the Lord is gonna most definitely keep us sustained. You know, in the book of Isaiah chapter 33 and verse 6, right? One that we always love to go into, right? Isaiah 33 verse 6, Salakia. It says, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure, right? So all of these things that we have encountered during the time, right? These scriptures, right? We're gonna have to really, excuse me, we're gonna have to use them now more so than ever, right? We using them now on a day-to-day, but now we got to dig deep, really believe, like you know, we have to be like we don't be like how it was with Peter at first. I think it was Peter when Lord Yahweh was telling him to cross, you know, through the water, walk on the water. You know, this is that time where we finna have to walk in that water and really believe in that faith. You know, matter of fact, one of my favorites, how I just worded that, right? 2 Corinthians 5 and 7. I think it's probably 1 Corinthians 5 and 7. No, it's this one, right? It's 2 Corinthians 5 verse 7. For we walk by faith and not by sight. No, this is that time we walking with the faith, right? He said he encouraged, Apostle Paul, you know, he was encouraging. Through the Spirit, we're encouraging brothers, exhorting brothers, right, sisters, to keep walking, right? This is a part of your testimony. You know, no test, no testimony. You know, so we all must be tested, right? Scriptures tell us that in the book of Sirach, chapter 2. When I come to serve the Lord, prepared ourselves for temptation, right? Because the Lord can keep throwing so many tests at us, so many trials at us, because he wants us to be fit for this kingdom, man. If you want to be a future ruler, right? Speaking to the men, you have to go through a lot of trials, man. It won't be no cakewalk, but everybody's lot is set up to where he's able to overcome it, right? The elect. You know, going to the book of 1 Corinthians 10, right, and 13, right? It says, there had no temptation taking you, but such as is common to man. But the Most High, right, Yahweh Shem Shah is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it, right? So the temptation that we're going through, the trial that we're finna go through, is sized up for us, right? Each every individual is sized up for every individual, you know. But you will be able to overcome it, because why? The Lord won't give you more than what you can handle. He can give you that just balance, you know. So you just got to keep holding on to that faith, right? So I had another because I had a couple of precepts that I had queued up, right? Romans 12 and 4. I mean, Hebrews 12 and 4. Salakia. Hebrews 12. I think it's 12 and 4. Nope. It was 12 and 1, right? Because Lord Yahweh, man, we have to keep in mind, Lord Yahweh, man, he was that prime example for us, man. You know, we must go through a lot to enter into this kingdom, right? Lord Yahweh had to go through a lot just to be on the right hand, the right side of the throne, right? But matter of fact, let me grab this right quick. Romans chapter 15 verse 4, one of my favorites as well, because all these things that we read about, you know, is actually to help build us up for the time of Jacob's trouble. You know, all these right, all these accounts that we read is to build us up, right, for the hour of temptation, right? So let's get it again. It says, for whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. See, that's what it's all about, having that patience, right? But also, hey, these scriptures give us that comfort, right? Because if the not saying we on a level of Yahweh Shah, but he's giving us that example to, this is what happens when you endure, right? This is what happens when you be patient, you know. You will overcome it. Hey, look at the three holy men, you know. Excuse me. They is a good example of being comfort, right? That's a good story to always read and to think about, right? It says, for whatsoever things were written aforetime. Matter of fact, in NLT it says, such things were written in the scriptures long ago to teach us, right? And teach us, and also to give us comfort, exhort us. It says, and the scriptures give us hope and encouragement as we wait patiently for the Most High's promises to be fulfilled. So we must wait. And we know when we're waiting, right, it goes into enduring, right? Enduring to mean what? Make hard. Suffering for the time being, right? Scriptures talk about how some of us may be thrown in concentration camps for 10 days, right? A representation of a number. You know, we must go through it, right? Like I said, the three holy men that was inside, you know, the my hand getting tired, but the three holy men that was inside the furnace, you know, and they was patiently waiting. They wasn't finna kneel, you know. And then boom, hey, Lord Yahweh came in the mix. He came to the rescue for them, you know. So in these times of Jacob's trouble, we must have that same type of mindset. We must be waiting on Lord Yahweh to come to the rescue for us, you know. Like it says in Isaiah 59:19, you know. So shall they fear the name of the Lord from the west, and the rising of the sun, when the enemy shall come like a flood, he shall lift up a standard against them. See? So the Lord can give us that spiritual power. He can give us that to be sustained inside that time, right? So let me grab these other precepts that I had. Yep, Romans. Matter of fact, let me hit the Acts 20 and 24, right? Because the brother had beautifully brought this up. Acts 20 and 24. You gotta keep that mindset. Right? Because after it's two things. We can some of us gonna, have to lose our life on this side, be a martyr for Yahweh Shah, and some gonna actually make it all the way to the end. But the thing is, you gotta hold up your integrity until then. Right? This Acts 20 and 24. Right? It says, but none of these things moved me, neither count I my life dear unto myself, so that I might finish my course with the joy and the ministry which I have received of the Lord Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, to testify the gospel of the grace of the Most High. Right? Right? So, hey, look how Paul's seen it, man. Right? He said, but none of these things move me. And that's the spirit we should be in now. Being thrown inside of a concentration camp, that shouldn't move us, man. That should be more evidence to make us keep going even harder. Because why? He's told us that in the book of Revelation chapter 2 and verse 10. So that's why we shouldn't be worried. That should make us even go harder. That should make us cry out even louder to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. We know these things are going to happen. Matter of fact, I think I had what? So I'm gonna do Romans 8 and 17. I'm gonna do Revelation 2 and 10 and 3 and 10, and I'm gonna close out, Lord willing. Right? This Romans chapter 8 and 17. I'm gonna read them in both versions. No, 18. It's like it says, "For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." Right? Let's read this at the NLT. "Yet what we suffer now is nothing compared to the glory he will reveal to us later." See? And this right is a temporary suffering, right, for everlasting glory, right? I think it's in the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 7, right, when he talks about the water, is it the waters on the left and the fire on the right? Pretty much let you know the difficulties, right? The difficulties that's on each side, right? But he say it's narrow, and then you gotta get to the guy to the abroad. So we must go through the tight squeeze, right? The sufferings just to get to that broad, right? The big broad, right? The opening, right? Which will be the kingdom. So we must go through tribulations just to enter to the kingdom, right? And it says, yet what we suffer now is nothing compared, right? This ain't shit, man. But but every brother has to go through his own suffering just to have his own testimony, right? Like I always, speak to myself a lot, constantly try each and every day, no test, no testimony, man. Every brother that will receive that crown will have a testimony. Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Barakatah. Every brother will have a testimony receiving that crown, right? The Lord says, hey, he commended them. Ezra Salakia said he commended those that stood so stiffly for the name, right? And hey, with that crown, hey, got a real testimony behind it. That man was inside a concentration camp. That man had to goddamn put to flight a couple of enemies, right? Because the Lord put the spirit on him. He went days without eating. He was getting tortured inside the concentration camps by Esau. Right? The Lord said he commended those. Esdras Salaki, he said he commended those that stood so stiffly for the name. So this is just a small suffering that we're going through, just so we can get it all, man. Right? And as we see the days going by with this martial law thing, hey, the test is finna increase, right? This trial is definitely finna be in our face, man. We've been preaching about it, but the scripture says in the book of Habakkuk 2 and 3, so like 2 and 3, it says, for the visions yet from the appointed time. Matter of fact, let me read that the NLT. This vision is for a future time. It describes the end, and it will be fulfilled. If it seems slow in coming, wait patiently, for it will surely take place. it will not be delayed, right? So we've been telling you about the time of the great testing, right? These concentration camps, right? Because at first people didn't believe about these concentration camps. They didn't believe that, brother would be getting thrown into them. Right now we're seeing these troops being on the ground to come to inside these nigger cities, man. Right? We was telling you Israel first, Judah the worst, right? We've been telling you about the prophecy of Genesis 49 on how the tribe of Judah is really going to make this thing pop off. Shalom a lot. Yeah, how about you? The brother, Big Bro Banan, man. So yeah, this test is definitely at our doorstep, man. And Lord willing, these scriptures have been encouraging brothers to brace for impact, because it's definitely coming. And I'm gonna close out with these last two scriptures of Revelation 2:10 and 3:10. And I'm gonna read inside the NLT. The NLT is be hitting sometimes, man. It says, "Don't be afraid of what you're about to suffer." See, and that's why Apostle Paul told you in the book of Acts 14 and 22, through much tribulation, we must enter into the kingdom. So don't be afraid. Right? I think in the book of Joshua, he states the same thing. Be courageous. But it says, don't be afraid of what you're about to suffer. The devil will throw some of you into prison to test you, right? This is all a test. The Lord want to see who's who. You say you're part of the hopefully elect. You say you standing simply for the name. Well, this is our time to really prove it. This is the time to really apply the scriptures more so than ever. The devil will throw some of you into prison to test you. Also with that MOTB, bros have families. That's going to be a time too to see if bros really will give in or not. It says you will suffer for 10 days, right? Which we know to be a representation, a completion of number, Salakia. But if you remain faithful, even when facing death, I will give you the crown of life. And I think that's in the book of Revelation 20 and 4, which I will grab, Lord willing. But that's heavy. It says, but if you remain faithful, even when facing death, because that's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. And that's what the brother Kalak was going into beautifully, right? You got to be ready to face death. You have to, because that's a part of it. Because if it comes down to it, you got to be ready for it, man. And it's just a quick death, right? You coming back. In the book of 1 Thessalonians talks about it. The dead shall rise first. So there's really nothing to fear. Now I wouldn't say go out here and try to tempt the Lord, but in that time period, right, we had nothing to worry about, right? Revelation 3 and 10. Right, it reads, I'll read to the NLT again. Because you have obeyed my command to persevere, I will protect you from the great time of testing that will come upon the whole world to test those who belong to this world. So it's coming to the time where the Lord's going to see who actually believe in this truth, right, and who the ones that been bullshitting, right? But he said, because you have obeyed, right, he will make sure you had that thawah, that mark of exemption in the time of Jacob's trouble, right? Because you was patient, you understood the game plan, right? Not to give into the to the MOTB. Right, I'm reading at the KJV. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, right? So in that trial period, right, the Lord gonna make sure you don't give in. Why? Because you was doing your job, you was keeping your integrity, you was standing stiff, right? And I'm gonna go to that book of Revelation 20 and 4, just because I had spoke on it earlier, and I'm gonna close out. And Lord willing, it has been comforting and uplifting and edifying, right? Revelation 20 verse 4, it says, and I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them, right? These elites going to be given judgment to the elect that's inside those concentration camps, right? It says, and I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them, and I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahushua and for the word of the Most High, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Hamashiach 1,000 years, right? So that's beautiful. That's standing stiffly for the name. And since I read that, I gotta go into that last one in the book of Second Esdras, Salakia. Cause this is right here is gonna be the end, and this is why this is the finish line, you know. Second Esdras chapter 2. I think it's like 42, yeah. And I'll just go through this quickly. It says, I, Esdras, saw upon the Mount Zion a great people whom I could not number, and they all praised the Lord with songs. And in the midst of them, there was a young man of a high stature, taller than all the rest, and upon every one of their heads he set crowns, and was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. And I honestly I like this because it reminds me of the three holy men, right? You had like small little pictures of three men, but you seen one bigger person in the background was representing Yahweh Shah, because he was there in the time of their trouble, right? He said, and I was more exalted, which I marveled at greatly. So I asked the angel and said, Sir, what are these? He answered and said unto me, These be they that have put off the mortal clothing and put on the immortal, and have confessed the name of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. Now are they crowned and receive palms. Then I said unto the angel, What young person is it that crowneth them and giveth them palms in their hands? So he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of the Most High, whom the Lord, like whom they have confessed in the world, right? And who was the Son of the Most High was Yahweh Shah, right? And today, even in today's time, a lot of people, a lot of camps don't even confess Lord Yahweh Shah, man, right? But hey, we standing stiffly for Yahweh Shah and everything that he stood for, right? Verse 48. All right, cool. It says, so he answered and said unto me, It is the Son of the Most High, whom they have confessed in the world. Then began I greatly to commend them that stood so stiffly for the name of the Lord, right? Standing stiffly for the Lord of Yahweh Shah, and also everything that comes with it. Man, the Lord told us not to take that MOTB, right? He told us we're going to be inside concentration camps, you know, but you stood so stiffly for it, right? Even when facing death. That's why the Lord has to crown those men, because why? They completed the course, right? They love their lives not unto the death, right? It says, verse 48, Then the angel said unto me, Go thy way and tell my people what manner of things and how great wonders of the Lord thou power thou hast seen. You know, so with all that being said, man, you know, Lord willing, this live lesson was, you know, exhorting and uplifting and edifying, right? And I'm gonna close out. And also shalom to the brothers, you know, that have been beautifully, you know, coming through on the comment board as well. Yahweh Shah Brakatah. So I'm gonna close out by giving honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shah, by Hashem Krakadash. Hey, double honor to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and shalom to the Holy Lake men. Shalom.